What's up? I am Ara, aka I Ate Zebra, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing one of my favorite characters that I feel gets overlooked quite a lot, and that is the heiress to Sunspear herself, the Princess Arianne Martell. From what we have seen from the pre-release The Winds of Winter chapters, 2 of which belong to Arianne, Our Lady is going to be in for a wild ride of fire, blood, and dragons, which I fear George is indicating will end with her inevitable demise. So let's get to it. We last leave Arianne after the fallout of her botched plan to crown Myrcella Baratheon as the true heir to Joffrey, not Tommen. This would be according to Dornish customs. Her ill-conceived plan was doomed from the start because, as we later find out, one of her co-conspirators, Sir Gerald Dane, aka Darkstar, already ratted her out to her father. He has a reputation of being disloyal and kind of a scumbag all around, but Arianne was blinded by his good looks, so she ignored the signs of his treachery. This resulted with the death of Kingsguard member Sir Aerys Oakheart by Areo Hota, and Darkstar attempting to murder Myrcella, but ends up cutting off just her ear. After leaving her to contemplate the consequences of her actions, her father, Prince Doran, feels it is time to bring Arianne into the fold and reveal part of his grand plans for vengeance for the deaths of Prince Oberyn and Princess Elia. It is revealed to us that a secret pact was made in Braavos at the Sea Lord's palace by Prince Oberyn Martell, representing the Martells, and Sir Willem Darry, the guardian and sworn shield of both Prince Viserys and Princess Daenerys. The plan was to betroth Prince Viserys to Princess Arianne Martell with the hopes that when Viserys came of age, he would return to seize his throne and Dorne would support with the hope of a queen from the House of Martell on the throne at his side. Well, that was wishful thinking, as we know Viserys died at Vaes Dothrak at the hands of Khal Drogo after threatening the life of his child and drawing a weapon in a sacred place. So they moved to plan B. Send Prince Quentyn Martell to propose to Queen Daenerys to still uphold the alliance between the Martells and Targaryens through marriage. Unfortunately, after Dany leaves the fighting pit, Quentyn takes it upon himself to try to become a dragon rider and ends up looking like Vader on Mustafar. However, we, the readers, know this, but news has yet to reach the Dornish, as I will come back to this a bit later. Luckily, Prince Doran, always the man ready to plan, says he has heard tidings from Lys of a fleet of Volantene ships carrying an army, and rumors of elephants. We, the readers, know this is Aegon and the Golden Company continuing to make their way west. They, on the other hand, are hoping it's Daenerys with Quentyn. Even though there has not been mention of any dragons, they still hold out some hope. The news of Aegon's arrival reaches Dorne directly from the word of Sir Jon Connington. He writes to Dorne to make an alliance for the love of Elia and vengeance for her. Prince Doran decides to send his heir, Princess Arianne, and some companions to treat and verify the validity of his claims, as both Jon Connington and Prince Aegon are both presumed to be dead. Arianne, along with 6 other companions, most notably Sir Daemon Sand, her sworn shield, Prince Oberyn's former squire, and her sometimes lover, as well as her cousin, one of the Sand Snakes, Elia Sand, named for her late aunt, Princess Elia Martell. As they make their way to catch a ship near Ghost Hill, the home of House Tolland, Arianne recalls some very ominous memories of what happened before leaving the Water Gardens. War is happening, thought Arianne, and this time Dorne will not be spared. Doom and death are coming, Elia Sand had warned them. After they arrive at Ghost Hill, another warning is foretold to Arianne by the Lady Nymelia Tolland's young daughter, Teora Tolland. As they're discussing all the chaos happening along the Stepstones, Cape Wrath, and Shipbreaker Bay, they wonder if they should be preparing for someone to attack, and who is responsible for the turmoil. And that is when Teora begins to reveal her vision. It is dragons. Dragons, said her mother. Teora, don't be mad. I'm not. They're coming. How could you possibly know that? Her sister asked. with a note of scorn in her voice. "One of your little dreams," she continues. "They were dancing in my dream, and everywhere the dragons danced, the people died." Yeah, I don't know, that's some real spooky shit coming from a kid, but that's just me. If you believe Aegon, aka Young Griff's, claims to be the real Prince Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Rhaegar, or if you subscribe to the very popular theory that he's actually a descendant of the maternal Blackfyre line. As the saying goes, red or black, a dragon is a dragon. I believe the dragons she is referring to are people, more so than Daenerys' literal dragons. Aegon obviously being one of them, along with Daenerys. And even though he's still dead and it's not official yet, but Jon Snow being the obvious third. Completing the 3 heads of the dragon, each of their paths, there will be plenty of death and chaos to come. I will not dive into Jon's part to play as he doesn't directly impact Arianne's story. However, Dany and Aegon play integral parts to her future, and I will continue to go into the parts they play throughout the video. The chapter ends with Princess Arianne and Sir Daemon playing a game of Cyvasse, where more foreshadowing of Arianne's doom is hinted at. "You have other pieces beside the dragon, princess. Try moving them sometime." I like the dragon. The conversation then moves to her inquiring about Prince Viserys, her former unbeknownst betrothed. She contemplates on what could make Daenerys be complicit with her husband murdering her brother. Obviously, most people do not know why, outside of those that were at Vaes Dothrak. Also, with growing resentment towards Daenerys by various parties in Essos, there are plenty of rumors and active smear campaigns against her. Arianne hypothesizes that Dany had Viserys murdered for his position as heir to the Iron Throne. As we can see, Arianne has a negative impression of Dany already. She also has been wondering why word of her brother's well-being and whereabouts has not reached her or her father yet. Arianne and company may take ship and land in Weeping Town off Cape Wrath on their way to the Mistwood, where we pile on the death of dragon, foreshadowing even more. The chapter opens. The Peregrine made port at the Weeping Town, where the corpse of the young dragon had lingered for 3 days on its journey home from Dorne. Quick little history note, the young dragon is King Daeron I, who died at the age of 18 after only 4 years on the throne, while trying to achieve what his forebears had not, and that was to conquer Dorne and bring it into the fold. He temporarily succeeded until rebellion broke out, and he died trying to take back what he lost. Dorne eventually becomes an official part of the Seven Kingdoms during the reign of his younger brother, Baelor I, also known as Baelor the Blessed. This was achieved through a marriage pact between the royal house of Targaryen and House Martell. Since then, there have been a few marriage pacts between these two houses. With that being said, let's get back to Dorne's most eligible bachelorette, Princess Arianne. On their way to Mistwood, they travel through a desolate wooded area into a very interesting forest. This wood has an assortment of wild flora, including most notably wild werewoods, as Arianne would refer to them. In these woods, there are also several caves, one of which the party takes refuge in overnight. While making camp, Princess Arianne's mischievous younger cousin, Elia Sand, goes wandering off into the caves. The team then has to split up to look for her. Princess Arianne and Sir Daemon, while looking through the caves, find themselves into a cavern that Arianne describes as another cavern 5 times as big as the last one, surrounded by a forest of stone columns. "Look at how the stone's been shaped," he said. "Those columns and the wall there, see them?" "Faces," said Arianne. "So many sad eyes staring." This cave system was home to the children of the forest, as they note, and I believe the cavern they entered was a sacred place for this particular group of the children. I personally am of the belief they had different tribes and groups amongst themselves, and this was home to a particular sect in that region. The reason I brought up the cave in relation to this video is that Arianne remarks on the eyes in the columns being very sad. which is a growing commonality within Arianne's chapters so far. Everything's very doom and gloom, and like the undertones of that can be present throughout. And I believe in this situation, the old gods are looking at her with empathy, for they can see her future and it is looking grim. They eventually find Elia in another cavern, in a black pool, waist deep with 2 blind fish in her hands. When Arianne spots her, she immediately begins to scold Elia. While doing this, George ironically sprinkles in a warning to Arianne too. "You could have died," said Arianne again. Her words echoed off the cavern walls. Died. Which is pretty self-explanatory as a bad sign. There is a lot to unpack with Arianne in the cave, but that would have to be its own separate video. Please let me know in the comments if you'd like me to dive deeper into the cave. Yeah, that was a bad pun, but just let me know in the comments. The company eventually make it to the Mistwood, where they are greeted by sergeants from the Golden Company, John Mudd and Chain. Both happen to let it slip that John Connington has left Griffin's Roost and is on the march, but they won't say where just yet. Griffin's Roost is currently being held by Haldon Halfmaester. Chain, being the one to let most of the information slip, justifies his point by implying that Princess Arianne, being from Dorne, should have the right to know. This will lead me to believe that the Golden Company was expecting to receive Dorne as an ally. On their way to Griffin's Roost through the Rainwood, Chain let it slip that Aegon's army is heading to Storm's End. They are met halfway by a party to escort them to the castle by a Lyseni named Lysono Mar, who clearly has some Valyrian ancestry, which is very common in Lys. Arianne remarks, "You look," she hesitated, "like a woman," he laughed. "That I am not." "Like a Targaryen," Arianne insisted. Was this what Viserys looked like? She found herself wondering. If so, perhaps it is a good thing he is dead. Aegon is described to have similar Valyrian features and is remarked as being handsome quite often, so I have no doubts that Arianne will be attracted to him. Just like Darkstar, she will be blinded by Aegon's good looks and most certainly align herself with him. Arianne continues to inquire about Daenerys and her whereabouts, mostly to find out how her brother's mission is going. Within this conversation, though, Lysono Mar notes on how Daenerys is still off in Slaver's Bay while Aegon is actually here. The princess lapsed into a thoughtful silence, and that night she dispatched her 4th raven to her father. We do not know the contents of this letter, but I would bet it definitely would lean more towards Aegon's favor for Dorne to support, due to the fact that he actually is currently in Westeros and no one knows when Daenerys will arrive. They arrive in Griffin's Roost, greeted by Haldon Halfmaester, who reveals to us that Lord Connington, Aegon, and his forces have seized Storm's End. They have a ship ready to take Arianne there in the morning, before Mace Tyrell and his forces arrive from King's Landing. When they are alone, Sir Daemon tells Arianne he mistrusts the Golden Company and this plan to go towards an active battle. Meanwhile, Daenerys is still in Slaver's Bay with her brother. He believes they should return to Dorne, but Arianne stays steadfast on her position in the mission her father gave her. He offers to go in her stead, as he is rightfully fearful for her safety. The chapter ends with her saying, "But my father entrusted this task to me, not you. Come the morrow, I sail to beard the dragon in its den." As of now, unless George makes any major edits to these chapters, this is what we can expect to see from Arianne in the Winds of Winter. I believe Arianne will serve as a bigger POV going forward to represent the perspective of what's happening in Aegon's camp. Now we're entering speculation territory and some of the possibilities that I believe we may see for Arianne's future. If you haven't been paying attention, this doesn't have a happy ending. I believe the amount of foreshadowing about her relationships with dragons, fire, blood, and death are all pointing in the same direction. I will say I do believe she will survive the Winds of Winter, but not live to the end of A Dream of Spring. I believe we will pick back up with Arianne before Storm's End is besieged by Mace Tyrell, Randyll Tarly, and other forces coming from the Reach and King's Landing. She will be smitten by Aegon's good looks and will resort to her usual technique of seduction to manipulate him. She is a young, beautiful girl. Dad is not a maiden, so I think her and Aegon will probably get busy fairly quickly. I do believe Aegon will ultimately win the battle against Mace Tyrell due to some treachery on Lord Tarly's behalf. It's been stated that they have friends in the Reach that have yet to be revealed. Randyll Tarly and his men were fierce Targaryen loyalists, and he was the one and only person to ever beat King Robert on the field of battle. Mace is oafish, not a military leader, and overall weak commander. If Randyll is not the current ally they have, I believe after seeing Jon Connington in the flesh, he will believe that Aegon's claim is real and turn to his side. He's not a real fan of the Lannisters, least of all Cersei, and especially not the Baratheons he viewed as usurpers, which is what King Tommen claims to be. With Tarly switching sides, most likely disposing of Mace or imprisoning him, along with taking control of the forces from the Reach. Generally, they do not get along with Dorne, but I believe they will seize the opportunity to ally with them to support Aegon's cause. This would leave King's Landing practically defenseless, and quite possibly could be a way to get Jaime to go back to Cersei and his kids. However, I do not think he will arrive in time. The path to Aegon taking King's Landing is all but clear. As he is doing this, Arianne will be right there by his side. A marriage proposal will definitely be presented to Aegon to wed Arianne. I believe he would have wanted to wait for Daenerys, but with word starting to spread about her disappearance, he will probably rule her out as a possibility. To bolster his claims as Rhaegar's true heir, he will be doing what he can to appear like his father. What better way than marrying a Dornish woman? I believe who Aegon weds will be a point of contention no matter what once he seizes the Iron Throne. At the court in King's Landing, I believe Arianne and Margaery will compete for Aegon's affection. Margaery, like Arianne, knows how to utilize her feminine wiles and will try to win him over as well. I doubt Aegon will even consider Margaery as a wife, as now she has been married 3 times. I probably should also mention that I believe King Tommen is definitely getting killed in the process of Aegon seizing the throne, thus making her a 3-time widow. He will probably marry her off to one of his lords. In the meantime, it will make for some great drama. The Sand Snakes and Arianne will be causing some mischief in Aegon's court. I believe when Dany decides to head west, Arianne and the Sand Snakes will try to dissuade Aegon from allying with her. I believe word of Quentyn's death would have reached her by now, making her completely against Daenerys. Her meddling in these affairs, I believe, will lead to her ultimate downfall. She is doomed, like her brother, to die trying to claim dragons for their own. For Quentyn, he wanted Dany, but when he failed, he attempted to claim one of her actual dragons and burned to death. Arianne, I believe, with her involvement with Aegon and her growing animosity and suspicion towards Daenerys, she will eventually die in the dance between these 2 dragons. Some of you know I believe there will be a grayscale epidemic to sweep Westeros due to Jon Connington's movements. And I believe this will lead to the death of one of the Sand Snakes and some other bigger named characters. I do not think Arianne will be one of these individuals, as her death seems to involve fire and blood. Well, what do you think will happen to Arianne in the Winds of Winter? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for when more content drops. Also, if you enjoy these Winds of Winter prediction videos, you can check me out every Friday on GrayArea's YouTube channel as one of the co-hosts for DireWolf City. You can see some of our character by character prediction videos there. See you next time. Bye!